Hey everyone. Um, always enjoy when I start these streams. I just smile and even if I've had a really good day today, but even if I've had a difficult day, it makes me happy again. So yeah, lots been going on. How's everyone going? Um, sorry, I'll try and stop leaning on the table because it does make it rock a bit. It's a drawing table and it can move, so I got to be careful. Um, yeah. So what's been going on? A couple of weeks ago, I started this challenge thing to get busy and motivated and moving and lose some weight, catch up on things that I haven't been doing, So I made it so just a little bit each day, and over 100 days, I'll get to a desired point, and I'm doing all right now. Awesome. Basic Glitches here. Basic Glitch says, "Hi, how are you? Also, good to hear that. I wish you luck." Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I'm actually pretty good. I did in the notes for the thing. I did have some triggers in the last week, but I've been managing them. I think I've done pretty good with that. I got upset a few times, but it's overall it's been really good. Awesome. Harmony Seekers here as well. It's awesome that you're here. I'm smiling. I love this. It's catching up with friends. Basic Glitch and Harmony Seeker here. Awesome. So yeah, like I've been exercising. I've been going for walks. It's awesome. I've got a friend I've been going for walks with, which is really good. Really amazing actually. So that's been like once or twice a day, which has been really good. My ankle's still really sore, so it's good for that, because it's keeping it moving. Awesome. Cage Pastor's here. Cage Pastor says, "Hey, things are going okay here. Excited for Mother's Day tomorrow." Yeah, that's it. Well, that's it. Happy Mother's Day for tomorrow, Cage Pastor. It's really good things are okay. It's awesome. Cage Pastor says, "How is everyone?" Or how's everyone? That's awesome. Yeah, well, I'm good, and I'm hoping everyone else is. I don't know. Let us know in the comments. So yeah, I've been going for walks, really good, and watched the sunset a few times. It's been really good. Saw the sunrise twice. Like once was just after sunrise, once was like on sunrise. So yeah, Basic Glitch says, "Oh my God, Mother's Day, I forgot. Thanks, Cage Pastor." Yes, just in the perfect timing. There you go. Just quick, get on the phone and call Mum. So, yeah, like it is a special day, and here it's Mother's Day here in Australia. So it's probably the same for you, Basic Glitch. It's Mother's Day today, so gives you a good chance to, what's her name? Call your mum. So that's an Australian saying. Like, when I say a lot. What's her name? That's what we say when we don't know what the word we were going to say. So I haven't said that for a long time, and it's just funny that I said it. Harmony Seeker says, "Not bad. That's really good to hear." So that's, for us, that live with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, not bad is good, is a good sign. So that is good to hear. Harmony Seeker. Basic Glitch says, yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. Yeah, no worries. I haven't been reading, because my challenge for myself is, fitness, reading, doing things around the house, working on the business, that sort of thing. So I've been doing a bit of all that. So that's really good. Awesome. Kat's here. So glad you're here, Kat. Hope you're doing well. Kat says, hi guys, hope all are well. That's lovely. Cage Pastor says, hi Kat. So I didn't do much reading this week, but I did a lot of work on the business and the not-for-profit that we're working on getting happening this year, and had some really good milestones this week with that, and also with my mindfulness business, which is going to be the big thing for me in the next year or so as well, to make money, because as soon as I need to finish a website, which I've only just started, so I really got to start again basically, but it shouldn't take too long. It's only going to be a simple website. And yeah, I've got Basic Glitch is going to help with some drawings, and I've got a good friend that's helping with the website as well. I've been eating pretty good, and I have hardly been drinking. So that's really good. What else? Oh yeah, in the post I did today, I went down to. There's lots of really awesome news this week. So I went for a walk with the other day, and showed my friend this community garden, and was just inspired to think about getting a plot there. And so you buy a plot or rent a plot for a year at a time. And that says, waving, hi Cage Pastor. Awesome. Yeah, so I was like, oh, I'll check this out. I've been meaning to for ages. And then I got on their, website and emailed them. And they said, yeah, we do working bees once a week. And, you got to go to 4 working bees, and then you can apply for a plot. And there's plots available at the moment. They're not always available. Perfect time of year too to start a veggie herb garden. Nice and cool to get out there and and for the next 4 months or 5 months, it's just going to be perfect for that, and so I've picked one, which is awesome. I went to the working bee today, and they're all really lovely people. I had a little bit of anxiety when I got there, but everyone was really nice, and so I didn't really get fully anxious. And then yeah, it was really good. I got given all this big pile of basil, like a big pile of it, and I've cut all the basil up. I'm going to make heaps of pesto, and I got the rest of the basil. I'm going to plant it, so because it was just pulled out of the ground. So I've got these basil plants which I'll be able to plant here at home. I'll do that tomorrow. maybe later tonight I'll make the basil. Plus, there's heaps of seeds on the basil, so I'll save some of them for my new plot where I'm going to grow some herbs and veggies, and I'll throw all those seeds all in the garden here at home, and hopefully some basil will pop up. It was really nice. So we did do a working bee for a couple of hours, and then have a cup of tea or a coffee and a piece of cake. It was really nice. And that says, that's awesome, Luke. Sunshine, hands in the soil. It's good for the soul. Awesome. Thank you, Kat. And I will be planting lots of spinach. So you'll love that. I know you love spinach. So yes, that's going to be awesome. I've got spinach seeds over there. So I'll get them happening and then get them ready to put in the ground. It's awesome. Just a beautiful spot. Nice people. Really good time to, yes, great time of year for spinach. Awesome. There you go. So I'll get some planted tomorrow. Are you sure's here? Awesome. Are you sure says hello everyone with the waving hands. So good, really, really awesome that you're here. Are you sure? I'm just smiling. It's always good to see everyone, So, Page Pastor says, hi, are you? With the smiley face. Kat says, hi, are you sure? So, yeah, that was a big thing. And then when I came back from the working bee this morning, and so I got to pick a plot because they said, oh, there's a couple available. And there was one that I was shown, and it's really awesome. So there's a lot of work. I've got to clean it up, remove some of the plants and weeds that are there. There's heaps of mint there. So when I clean up the plot, I'm going to put the mint in some containers so it doesn't take over the whole thing. And then I'm going to freeze a whole bunch of it and dry some, make some mint tea with it. And that's going to be awesome. And then when I got home, I was telling my friend all about today, and she said, I want to go make some pesto. And she goes, I said, I need to go get the stuff. And I said, can you come with me? And so I took my phone with me, and because I was going to have major anxiety going to the shops. It was middle of the day, busy on a Sunday. And so she came with me on video chat. So I was carrying my phone around with me, and I had my headphones on, which helped with the anxiety. And that really helped. So she was a really great support and helped make it all happen. And I even got some coffee beans. So I haven't had coffee for a while, so I'm going to have some. It'll stop me drinking other drinks like Red Bull or anything like that, which is bad. Not good. So so I've got olive oil and garlic. So it's going to be, and I've got macadamia nuts. Instead of pine nuts, I'm using macadamia nuts, which is awesome. That makes really good pesto. And it's not that much more expensive than using pine nuts. And so I'm going to have heaps of pesto. I look forward to making pizza and pasta. So many good things. Just even on toast, just toast with pesto, delicious. And what else? So that was a really awesome day. I mean, I had some pretty rough triggers this week, but I managed them. I'll sort of talk about that in a minute. I had some really special days as well, like some memorable days of making plans for the future and progressing, feeling good about the future, feeling loved and feeling important, and also having responsibility to really make an effort to do all the things that I've been wanting to do. So now's the time I've really got to work hard. I've got to finish this website and get clients for the mindfulness. I need to get regular clients, which will happen as soon as I start getting things happening with that. So the triggers, yeah. So it happened 3 times this week. Not good. And they happen around the same time. They happen at the end of the day. And they'll sort of carry on from what I've been triggered about the last few weeks. And it's to do with some major trauma that I've gone through. Several things, and associated mostly with injustice and fear of reprisal from if I was to seek justice. So I had been threatened several times when I went to seek justice over things that had happened to me. And that scared me off that. And what's happened in the world in the recent times, in the last few weeks, we were talking about this in the two streams back. I have been triggered by all that stuff because of how victims get treated by people in power or powerful organizations. And it's horrible. And in some respects, once I sort of once I was able to stop the triggers. So I did get upset a few times, and so 2 things I did. One time I spoke to a friend and told him that I was triggered and I needed to chat, and the other time I spoke to my dad, and that both times that really helped. Also, rationalizing my situation in looking to the future and making things if anything, it's strengthened my resolve to keep working on this not-for-profit organization that's dedicated to help people with, or will be dedicated to help people with complex post-traumatic stress disorder and various other things similar or associated, to give them a new start in life, to start again. So one of the, and this was pretty monumental, sorry, or monumentous. Monumental, that's a better word. We had our first formal meeting this week about for the sanctuary healing center that we want to make. It's just really exciting. And I lined up a meeting with some people that are interested in being advocates for mental health and people living with complex post-traumatic stress disorder and disabilities, and wanting to, this person and his partner want to do what they can in that field. And it was perfect timing when I spoke to him, because I said, well, this is what I'm working on. We'd love to hear all your ideas and see how you can help us and become part of it all. So we got a meeting with them next week, or this week, this Friday. It's going to be great. Yeah, so many positive things, and that, I guess, that helped me get through the triggers. It's still difficult. I have to turn it around to make it something positive in those situations. So luckily, these times I was able to calm down and stop being upset after a little while, maybe an hour or 2 hours at the max, and that was been good. So I need to work on that more, but it's very difficult when you have major triggers and then you get in that state. So where are we? Oh yeah, Are You Sure says, hello everyone. Oh no, I think I read that one. Yeah, and Cage Pastor says, hi, are you? Kat says, hi, Are You Sure? Are You Sure says, much love everyone. Basically says, hi all. Cage Pastor says, 3 steps back, 10 steps forward. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. 10 steps, see, 3 steps back, 10 steps forward. That's awesome. Cage Pastor says, overall, good though. Yes, overall, good. In fact, overall, really good. So, I look forward to going for walks every day this week now and seeing the sunset and the sunrise and working in the community garden, working on my business so that I can work for myself. Yeah, things are getting better. And, things like losing the weight, that'll happen, it just won't happen straight away. What else? I mean, that's the main thing about the triggers is I reached out and spoke to people. I sort of went through the process of rationalizing it. And I think, I don't know, I think for people with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, if there is, if it's come from being if it comes from like being hurt or abused or threatened, then getting or mistreated in a situation where they should be able to seek justice, the inability to get anything from or resolution, causes, to me, I see it as a major trigger, and it has been for me for a long time. And I have gotten a bit better at dealing with that. In my case, that's essentially what pushed me to want to start this organization, this not-for-profit, because I see that when there's nothing you can do about things, it's essentially the victim gets re-victimized or victimized and re-traumatized over and over. So any people that really push through and seek justice, and if they can achieve that, can be a massive healing thing. Sadly, for a lot of people, it's not possible. And this doesn't apply, obviously, for cases of complex post-traumatic stress disorder that comes from situations where that's not possible anyway, because of the actual situation. Really, this week's been overall amazing. When I look at all the positives, so I kept joking about it with a friend that we've been, and me also, achieving all these, making all these achievements. So I kept saying it's like on a video game when you unlock an achievement for doing something, and you get that good feeling of like accomplishment. So it does help when you do those things, and that's why creating goals that are achievable really help. So um, they don't have to be massive goals. So next week, or this week coming, is going to be get back to the reading. Try and do a bit of reading each day. I need to get back to playing guitar every day, because I'd started playing a little bit and then I just haven't. So every time I pick up the guitar, it's like, I'm going back to, I've got to, it feels, I feel uncoordinated and all that sort of stuff. Oh yeah, my guitar strings will arrive this week, hopefully. So they're in customs. So as soon as they arrive, I'm going to finish my next guitar, which is going to be awesome. Basic Glitch says, oh yeah, this week was good. I hope that I will be able to do something I was assigned for. I'm actually training for it, just so I will not F it up. It would be Swift and other stuff. So, ooh, sick, with the big smiley face. So that's really good to hear, and that's you've got a goal, or you've got several goals, and you've been training, you've been working towards that, and so and it sounds like there's confidence there, so you've been training so you won't mess it up. Yeah. And it'll just run smoothly, and you do have and other things that could affect it. So yeah, Basic Glitch says guitar, nice. Yeah, I've got a classical guitar that I bought reasonably cheap, secondhand, and I took the frets off it, and I've got to complete it to be a fretless guitar, and I got special strings for it so that it can be a baritone, play a whole one octave lower. So it's exciting. What else? Oh yeah, so I'm excited to make this pesto, which I've got like a bowl. It's like this. It's like that much basil. So I've got enough basil there to make like, you know, heaps of pesto. And so, and I've got lots of olive oil today. It was really, and I bought candles. I haven't had candles for months. So I'll be able to, next time I do a stream in the other room, I'll look forward to getting the candles going again, because it's always nice for the atmosphere, and I just love candles. So I've got a couple of months worth of candles there, which is good, because I have major anxiety going to the shops and going to busy public places. It's getting better, but it's still I don't know how long it's going to stay like that. So I'm really grateful my friend came to the shops with me on video chat and kept me. The anxiety was pretty full on. Like, I actually had to stop at one point and wait to go into the second place. And when I got home, I had a delayed anxiety. It wasn't like an anxiety attack. It was just anxiety. So I just felt that uneasy feeling and anxious, but a really mild version. And so I was really grateful that's all it was. And so um, basically she says, don't worry, I don't have any confidence at all. Whoa, that sounds awesome. Metal strings or plastic? Or are they special strings? Yeah. Well, it's on a classical guitar, so it's got half metal and half nylon, and they, yeah, so they're the same tension, so it means I can put them on a regular guitar and not make the neck, it won't bend the neck from the tension that you normally have to have for lower strings. And so that's really cool. I'm going to do a live stream with me finishing it, maybe 2 live streams, because I've got to wait for the glue to set before I probably, before I oil it, because I like to oil the fretboard before I put the strings on. So, yeah, it's really cool. So you'll get to see me finishing the guitar. The first few steps have already been done, but the major final steps, there's still a lot of work to go on it. So I've got to sand the neck, fill in the frets, oil it, sand down the nut and the saddle, and then put the strings on. So I'll do 2 streams. I'll do it guitar, something, fretless guitars, conversion, stream 1 and stream 2. So I'll do it. And they'll be split over. There'll be two days in between each one, so I've got time for the glue to dry. Ace Pastor says, "You got it, basically. When in doubt, document everything. It's not your fault. You don't already know something. You're trying to get on top of it by training too. Sounds like you are doing good." Yeah, that's awesome comment. That's it. Hey, you can. It is difficult not having confidence or much confidence, but doesn't mean you're not going to achieve things. And it might be you might be nervous, but if you're doing that training and practice, you can be nervous and it still works, and then you can feel more confident each time. And so yeah, that's a really good comment, because it's not easy, confidence really does help. And when in times when it feels like that, think back to things that you've achieved, and just knowing you can do it, you can achieve, helps. And also just that, yeah, really just preparation is such a massive thing for difficult things, so I got bitten by midgies this week. Midgies, we call midgies, they're little tiny flies, and I've been itchy. It's not good. I scratch too much, and so that's bad. It's a bad habit when I get bitten by lots of mozzies or midgies, and so I was just scratching my leg then. I just realised it's not good. So yeah, just things are overall good. You know, but yeah, the triggers that I had a couple of weeks ago are still there because of some things that have been going on in the world where, you know, and that's where, you know, I've been worried, and hoping Sam likes fruits doing all right. Because she was very much triggered by the same things that I was. And I finally just found her channel too. I didn't know she was making videos, and I've been watching a bunch of them. And yeah, it's heartbreaking to find out what she's been through and what is going through. So, you know, Sam, just know that we all hope the best for you, and we're thinking about you, and look forward to you being in the chat again soon, because, you know, we all enjoy your company. Basic Glitch says, I don't know anything. Yes, it's not easy when some people trying to trigger you on purpose and try to keep you stuck too, possibly sometimes. Thanks, support. Also, oh, cool name for the flies. Yeah, midgies. So you can say it with a D, midgies, or midgies without a D, midgie. Yeah, because they're mini, midgie. Sometimes they're so small you can't even see them, like, and they just bite you, or you can just see them. So we call, you know, another name is sand flies as well, but fruit flies that bite. Not all fruit flies bite, but the ones that do. But yeah, and look, you know, I'm sure you, I'm sure you know a lot of stuff, Basic Glitch, you know, but it is difficult, you know. So I think it's difficult because there's so much complexity in the world, and Cage Pastor says we call them no seams. Lol. Nice, no seams. Yeah, that's it. I no seam, but it's bit me. You can see. I don't know if you can see the bites on my arms. All those red spots. And it's really itchy. Yeah, bites all there, and so I think Cage Pastor's in America. I'm pretty sure she's in America. So um, that's what they call them there. So no seams. I'm going to use that one, and you can use Michis too now. So spread the and same thing. Everyone start calling them no seams or midgies. um, yeah, that's it. Cage Pastor says, "Yep, Southeast US. Nice. It's a good spot, good part of the world." Um, oh, what else? But yeah, no, it's actually that's a good spot. Like I was looking, I'd love to go to the Appalachian Mountains one day. So definitely, that's on the, you know, I'm working towards that. Um, what else? You know, I think I sort of covered my main thing I wanted to talk about, and update on everything. And you know, I'm really grateful that you know, I've had a whole bunch of friends that are all people from the channel here that have been there supporting me um, for a long time, and just in, especially in the last, you know, few weeks, months, I really appreciate everyone's being there for me. I really do, and I hope we can be there. We, you know, hope we. It's the same that we can all be there for each other too. So eventually I want to get some form of a forum thing where people can just chat and talk about things in a safe, trauma-informed way. So we could have, like, like a thread that's like where it's, trigger warning, content warning type thing for people that could get triggered talking about certain stuff. And then threads about, what you do to heal and how you, and then other threads to inspire, and educate. So talking about trauma, talking about healing, um, learning about the psychology behind, things like codependency and narcissism and, emotional abuse, or how to, how to heal and live again, So I think that'd be great. It's a good goal to set up, you know. I've been looking at different ways to do that. Can do that on the Patreon or on a Mastodon chat network or Discord. So I don't know how it's going to happen yet. I've got so much going on at the moment, so it's going to have to wait for a while. I've got to get my website going first because I need to start looking for jobs or getting clients for jobs. So I've got to make mindfulness videos to put on YouTube to help complement and get people interested in what I do, that they can then find my website, and then if they're interested, book some mindfulness training. So basically, it says to spread the word of Almighty Luke. That's it. Awesome. Midgies or midgies, right? Yeah. Look, you can say it either way. And it's one of those things. It's like a slang word, so I think both spellings is fine. Spread the word of the Almighty Luke. I love that. I even look like the emoji when I laugh, when I smile and laugh. I'm like that. So, yeah, so many good things, some difficult things. I mean, it was Mum's birthday this week, but it was actually one of the most beautiful days for me for other reasons. Just spending it with a close friend, and that was really special. And it was really nice to do that on Mum's birthday, like, because she would have loved that, absolutely. And so on her birthday, I got to watch the sunrise, and then the day was really calm and peaceful. And then that evening, I watched the sunset, and it was pretty special. And some of Mum's camellias were flowering that day, which were really special too. So, and again, obviously, today's Mother's Day here in Australia and in Europe. So, it is. I've been thinking about Mum today, and again, she would have loved that I went down to the community garden and started getting my own little veggie patch down there, and so there's some really exciting stuff for the future. And with the not-for-profit sort of healing thing, organization that we're setting up, last week there was major progress, really good. And that and the mindfulness are just major projects that I'm working on. And so it's I'm just so glad I've, with help, gotten past that stagnated stage that I was in, and it's understandable why I was in that, because of grief and the sort of carry on from, you know, what I've gone through in the last few years. So it's really good to put all that stuff in the past. It's still painful and there, and that's again one of the triggers was brought up from some of that stuff where there was injustice and malfeasance done towards me. And it really upset me. And that stuff, it's from recent past. That's from 18 months ago, 19 months ago. I'm just really grateful for you all being here, with us connecting and supporting each other and supporting me, and so if any way I can support anyone, let me know. Just need to chat. My email's on my profile, so you can email me and I'll get back to you. I've even gotten started to email again. That was one of the big things. I was frozen for months, from since the start of the year. Basically, everything stopped for me. I went from being bedridden last year to almost basically bedridden at the start of the year, which lasted for like 2 months at least. Again, it was really good to have all you people helping, and new friends that I've found through here that I've been chatting a lot with, and yeah, so I appreciate all of you, so much for helping me get to here. Harmony Seeker says, you're doing so well with the shops, etc. Thank you so much, Harmony Seeker. Yeah, it was middle of the day on a Sunday, and it was packed, and it was pretty. I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't have my friend on video chat supporting me and talking to them. And I guess this is a good tip: walk around with some headphones on if you're worried with anxiety, and people will sort of understand. People that understand that it can just be the thing that helps you get through, and but step by step, I'll be getting more and more able to deal with those situations. So I'm going to try and go to the shops again this week, but during a quieter time. And yeah, just the community garden. Everyone there is so friendly and welcoming, and such a peaceful atmosphere. I like the working bee, once a week, because it's another fitness exercise thing for me. So it's just awesome. And thank you so much, Harmony Seeker. I'm really grateful that I'm finally getting back moving again after being just, because it really did hit me for a while. And I'm looking forward to what I can do now. Basically says, wow, you're strong to survive that. One day you'll be one hell of an inspiration story. I've always my headphones on. Yeah, that's it. I have always my headphones on. Yeah. Thank you so much, and they really help. Hey, I know some people that it helps with their Asperger's or ASD, and anxiety is a big aspect to that, and yeah, um, I look forward to getting stronger and stronger over time. But yeah, thank you, and it's good you use the headphones. It really does help. Cage Pastor says, I don't have social anxiety, but wear headphones in public all the time, like music, and don't want to talk to people with the smiley face with the tongue out. Yeah, that's um, it really does help like that, you know. Um, I mean, what I've been doing while I've been going for walks, and um, I've had the headphones on and I've been chatting to my friend, but then when I see someone, I walk past someone, I say hello to them, and I can hear them. They say, they generally say hello back, and so that helps because it's sort of like even, yeah, it's difficult, hey, because I didn't have at time for large portions of time I didn't have social anxiety, but then it just got more and more intense until it became debilitating. So let me get some water. So it is Mother's Day, so it's a good time to think about mothers, whether you are a mother or your own mother. Think about her. And there's a lot of women on here that are mothers, and also women that never got to be mothers. Think about them. I know Father's Day was a big triggering thing for me for a long time. I would get very upset, and because I didn't get to be a father, but I'm not giving up on that. Maybe that'll happen one day. And but it's still, Father's Day has been something that was very upsetting for me and triggering for many, many years, and um, contributed greatly to status anxiety. Which I probably had more status anxiety for a long time rather than social anxiety, and so now I've got more the social anxiety. Um, I still have status anxiety, but I don't worry about that as much. So just saying all that stuff just so that we can all think about, you know, or mothers that don't get to see their kids, because that happens to a lot of mothers where they've been separated. So my thoughts are with them, and and also, like, yeah, again, you know, Australiana's here, awesome, so good to see you here, Australiana. Australiana says, and then ask where her latest specials were. Don't live with family. uh, yeah, that's that is classic. Yeah, it's not things aren't easy, is it? It can be. Um, yeah, it's not always. Even if it is difficult to celebrate those days, um, it's good for people to be able to celebrate them, and yeah. Paige Pastor says, "Hi, Australiana," with the big heart. Basically says, "Ooh, I mean, social anxiety is big one for me. I overthought even from where it is appropriate to say hi, and then I met a guy who was who was waving to everyone, and I was just like, yeah, totally. That that helps. I can tell you, even for me, it's been one thing that I've always I can be I can be have the anxiety, and then still, like, I'd wave to like, not if I'm in a busy place, but if I'm walking along somewhere and I pass someone, I'll generally acknowledge them and wave, or say hello, and that really does help. And it can be inspiring when you see other people like that. But I see where you're saying too that that can be confronting too. If you've got social anxiety and then someone is giving you attention and saying hello, can be confronting, but can also be something that inspires you to try the same, because then especially if you're walking past someone and you say hello and you continue walking, you don't have to keep talking to them, so it's very safe in that sense. And it sort of gets you better and better, more equipped with being able to interact. So Harmony Seeker says, absolutely. For me, it's a mild being mix of being estranged from my mother, but also because of the issues with my kids. It is a hard day, although I saw all of them today, feeling rather flat about it all now. So there you go. That explains what it can be like, and what it is like for Harmony, is that you've got this conflicting thing where it's both, being a mother and having things that make that some things painful, and then also having estrangement or issues with your own mother. And so yeah, it is very, it can be conflicting and painful. In Pete Walker's book, he talks about that, where he's like, he uses an example. You know, that someone who was having issues with abandonment, with or emotional abuse, and then it's like, I think he wrote like the anti Mother's Day card, and it made him feel better, or her. I can't remember, but it was an example that was in Surviving and Thriving Complex Post Traumatic Stress Disorder. So, and how there are ways that you can approach these things when they are triggers or cause pain. Again, in my situation, it's been, for me, Father's Day, because I haven't been able to have a family. So hopefully that might change in the future. Who knows? Kat says, when going for walks, it's so nice saying hello to passers-by. Even though I'm anxious, It feels like a mini achievement and puts me at ease. Oh, that's awesome, Kat. Yes, I totally agree. Isn't it? It's such a good thing. And, because especially when you make the effort to go for a walk, just that in alone can be difficult, and, for me, often when I go for walks, they're on walking paths or trails. And so often, you're in nature and the other people are in nature. So you both got this shared sort of thing where you're both enjoying the nature. Sometimes you can say, oh, it's a beautiful day today, and that can be the greatest thing. But yeah, isn't it? Like it's like a mini achievement right there. Basically says it was inspiring, but the guy thinks for some reason that I hate him. But I was at awe of him precisely because social bravery. By the way, hi all again. I hope you are doing great. I hope it will get better. Thank you for those comments, Basic Glitch. And that is great. So she was talking about, the person who was waving and saying hello to everyone. And, hopefully he doesn't think, anything of that in a negative way and understands, that it is not easy. And, not responding in a, exuberant way back to them isn't necessarily a bad reaction. So you could say, well, if you said something really negative towards that person when they were trying to say hello, and that I do that myself. So I worry about things more than what they are. So hopefully he doesn't think that, because you're a friendly person, basically. We all appreciate you here. So. But that's and the other comment saying hi again to everyone and hope you're all doing great. I hope it will get better. That's really nice. Cage Pastor says, sounds like a roller coaster. I hope you have some nice moments too. I know I'm going to do my best to stay busy, but it's complicated for me too. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that it is complicated but yeah, I like your optimism too, saying, I hope that there are nice moments. And I think that she might have been referring to Harmony Seeker there. Because, yeah, it's good that Harmony Seeker was saying that and showing that, sharing the pain that she sort of goes through, but how she is sort of, hopefully it does get better. Australiana says, dwelling on and spending time on issues of the past keeps them in our today and tomorrow. Should we allow? Parent that leaves kid with abuser deserves no HM day or revisiting for tomorrow. Got to go. Feeling triggered. Talking about triggers. Yeah, I'm sorry that I apologise, Australiana. I'm sorry if I've done that. But I hope you're feeling better, and I appreciate your comments. That's really good. So dwelling on things it's a really good comment Australiana made, is that by dwelling on things from the past, it is keeping them in the present. So it's something we have to really work on with, especially, with trauma and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So it is difficult. So sorry that you've got to go and feel triggered. I really hope that it's not my doing. But I'm sure you'll be back soon, next week or the week after. And we all love you, Australiana. So we'll see you soon. Cage Pastor says, "Amen, Australiana." Yeah, no, that's we understand that those. She was referring to, I think, your comments too of dwelling on the past and how it keeps it in the present, and then it affects your future because you're stuck in the present, dwelling in the past. So it's this complicated thing that we've got to work out, So Cage Pastor's got the heart there. Basically, she says, "I say hi to animals. Yesterday, new mother of fawn, elk, and 2 cows." That's lovely. See, that's great. Especially if you're in a rural area and there is wildlife, that can be such a beautiful thing. So today I was at the community garden, and when we were digging up, fixing a garden and getting rid of like weeds that were in there, and was sifting the soil and to separate out the seeds that sit under the soil. And so there were all these bugs, grubs, and worms, and the butcher birds were all surrounding us, and like it was beautiful. There was like a whole family of them, and like they just love it because when we're in the garden digging, they know that there's going to be food, and they're beautiful. They're like some of my favorite birds. And the magpies were there as well. There was maggies, but the butcher birds certainly love that place. That's a great thing, that basically says, saying hi to animals is a really, really great thing to do. If I'm walking somewhere and the cat walks out, I say hello to it and that sort of thing. It's really, and birds especially. When birds are calling out, I like to sing to them, sing back, and sometimes they call back. So when I went on a walk yesterday, there was corellas in the trees, and they had like there was parents with the baby corella there, and it was calling out, and I was trying to mimic their call, and so they were like, what's this person doing? But I was saying hello to them. It was fun. But that's great. Uh, Basically says, "I trust less and less people," with the stress face. Yeah, that's understandable. It is an aspect to trauma, and that trust, and that's where anxiety and trust issues sort of cross over. Um, and often there'll be both those things going on, you know, and that makes it even more difficult. And basically, she continues, "Yeah, I hope it will get better, Luke, and everyone. Thank you. We appreciate that." Cage Pastor says, "Love is what you need. Love is what you said." I love that. Yes. Basically, she says, "Yeah, Australiana is cool. I hope that they will add reaction system to comments because her brilliant comments deserve big hearts." Oh, that's brilliant. That's a great idea. You know, that's a great idea for YouTube. That might be worth. Um, that might be worth sending an email to YouTube about that. because people, especially people that watch streams after they've played, if the comments are there, people can add, reactions to comments after the streams happen, even if they weren't there when it was live. I think it would work better just for, it would be good if it was just mainly positive. Like you could only add positive reactions after. I mean, all the reactions are positive actually. So I think that's a great idea. Worth messaging YouTube about that one. And also, yes, great point. Australiana has really good comments and really funny ones, like good sense of humor. And so, and also like positive outlook on difficult situations. So, yeah, basically it says, yeah, big hug for Australiana. Basically says, sorry, the text sometimes is slow, so might be out of place. No, that's all right. We've got the continuity. It's all good. Basically says, yeah, but oh yeah, I love when you go outside and all the things seem like divine timing had come. The wind starts to blow and the birds fly around you. It's so magical. Best when the flowers are in the wind too. Oh, look at that. That's really cool. That that reminds me. I was going for a walk the other day and I was in the forest and a feather was floating down. And I was chatting to my friend. I was like, "Oh, cool! There's a feather floating down." And I walked over and I caught it in my hand. And she goes, "Oh, that's a bum feather. That's come from the bum of from a bird." I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." It was so funny, but it was still pretty magical because there was this feather floating down, and it was those really fluffy feathers, and it was like I caught it. But yeah, it's magical. Nature is such a healer, and it's the birds, it's the wind, it's the leaves, it's the trees, it's the grass, the flowers, the clouds, the sun, the moon. It's almost full moon. It's always beautiful to see the full moon. And we all get that. Pretty much everyone on earth gets to see the moon and the sun. So we should appreciate those things when we can. So yeah, I saw tonight, I saw the moon was rising. It rises early at the moment. And yeah, it's beautiful. Lit up the whole sky and even the ground. It's amazing. I went last week. I went up to watch the sunset and I got there late, but it didn't bother me because it was even sort of better in some respect because the sun had already set. So I'd missed the sunset, but I actually, because I'd missed the sunset, I was there in the bush through twilight and it was beautiful. And I appreciated the twilight even more and it just getting dark. And then the moon rose and it was so bright I didn't need a torch or anything. You could see a moon shadow and yeah. Does anyone know that magical thing about moonlight? That moonlight is colder than moon shadow, and it's magical. So the light that comes from the moon is colder than the absence of light from the moon. So the moon light is like a cold light. it's colder than no light. It's amazing. And you know, you can easily prove this. If you've got a thermal camera, you can point it at the light of the moonlight, reflecting on the ground or on something, and then you move the thermal camera onto the moon shadow, and it's warmer in the moon shadow than it is in the moonlight. It's I think that's magical, and it does sort of somehow make sense when you understand that light is an electromagnetic perturbation in the ether. You know, it different forms of light can have different effects. So it's magical. Moonlight is colder than moon shadow. H Pastor says that would be really cool. Yeah, totally. Being in nature like that with the wind and the wind in the flowers and birds flying around. Basic Glitch says it happened to me once. It was awesome, but without flowers. But I don't trust them. My original complaint was something that happened, but others based it on misunderstanding. So now I am. I think there's another comment coming in a minute. So yeah, I just love that amazing thing about moonlight being colder than moon shadow. So that's a continuation from Basic Glitch. So she says that my original complaint was something that happened, but others based it on misunderstanding. So now I'm in a position where I technically lied, but I didn't lie because I was talking about something else. But people thought I was talking about something I did in my not good place and didn't know that it had the effect on someone. That is a really good point. Is that misunderstandings can be really difficult, and especially when you don't know the effect of things that you say. You know, and for me, it helps me to understand when people have been mean or rude to me that maybe they didn't understand what they were saying. Sometimes it could be I get majorly triggered and then I have to say, look, this person didn't know that that was a trigger, you know, that sort of thing. And a really good point of like what you're saying there basically is, you know, when you're not in a good place, you know, you can say things and they can be misconstrued. And this is where a big thing about being able to identify being triggered and then knowing how to deal with it can can be like, if say you go, okay, I'm really triggered about something, and you realize you are, so you're not in a good place with things. That's when you can say, I'm not going to interact with anyone for half an hour or an hour. I'm just going to try and, you know, get to a better place before I try to communicate. Because that's happened to me a lot of times, you know, and I've spoken to people in a triggered, upset state, and then I've said things that I didn't mean to say. Absolutely. You know, I'll give you an example which has probably happened a lot of times where I've been triggered in a very upset state. And so it would bring up all these other things that were, painful to me, which I would never I would normally not talk about, because it would detract from the other major thing that's upset me. And then so suddenly I'm going on about all these things, and then the other person's like then thinking that I've got this whole skewed view on something based on what's my interpretation of how I've been treated. And unfortunately, it might be a lot of things I've actually been able to come to terms with and had, or I don't necessarily see as being as major problem compared to these other things. But because I've been in this angry, upset state, I'll go on about all of these things. And then so it causes the other person to think that I've got this perspective that I'm angry about everything and upset about everything. And it's sad. It's not the case. And then often in those situations, I'll feel really embarrassed for myself afterwards. It's like I should have just been quiet and never said any of that stuff, because it's now made it worse because the other person remembers all those things that I said. And I'm just like, I've just done it all wrong, and I get upset about, again, keep getting more upset at myself for how I've reacted. And this is also something very similar to what narcissists do on purpose. They purposefully trigger people to get them angry and irate, so they then express that so that they can sit back and laugh at the person for getting angry and upset and making things worse for themselves. It's really horrible. It doesn't happen that often, but that does happen. But in a lot of cases that I'm talking about, for me, it's not necessarily like a narcissist or anything like that doing it on purpose. I've just been triggered by something, and then rather than being quiet, I go off and complain about all these things that I really didn't need to even talk about. And then I feel embarrassed afterwards, or it makes it worse. I really am working on that, and it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it does. And I have come to identify that, and then now that when I'm in that state, I just go, just don't say anything about anything. Just stick to the one thing that's upset me, and then don't go into it for too long, and then finish the conversation and move on. And so that actually works really well once I've realized that. That's actually what I did this week when I got triggered, and I was upset, and then I said why I'm upset, but then I didn't keep going on about it. I went almost did, but I where am I? But yeah, that's a really good comment, and I just sort of went on to an explanation of my own, comparing, and it could be different to what you're talking about there, basic glitch. But yeah, it sounds similar, like in that, because it has an effect on someone else, your reaction to things. Basic glitch continues. Yeah, I just don't trust the people now because they are right to think that I lied. But they also failed me by saying that I did it to myself, and later was mean because not lie, but my finding out the hard way. Yeah, that's yes. Experience says that You are absolutely telling the truth. Yep. They're really good comments that, you know. I think there's in some of that, there is maybe a unconscious sort of gaslighting that happens in some situations, just because of the complexity of people communicating in heightened states of arousal, you know, or agitation. You know, arousal being in not sexual arousal, but agitation. You know, there. So what a lot of things we know with that stuff is that when you, and this is a big thing with trauma triggers and dealing with trauma, is when you get into that state, your brain shuts down. You can't think properly. Your frontal lobe shuts down. You can't have those higher level thought processes. And so it's all connected with the vagus nerve, you know, and the interrelationship between heart rate variability and whether your nervous system's in a state of safety or state of fear or fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses. And when you're in those, when that stuff's happening, you can't have proper conversations, you know. And like it's almost like, so our, you know, critical thinking stops happening, and so we then have these biases or biases towards negative reactions or negative associations with things, and that then gets expressed as negative or something that is contrary to what we generally hold or want to you know, express. And so it's almost like we've been tricked into saying things that we didn't want to say. And that's, or the other thing is forgetting to say or omitting things because that's a really upsetting, frustrating thing. You know, like when you get upset by something and then you go to say reasons why you're upset or things that needed to happen a certain way. But in the moment, because, you know, blood flow, heart rate, nervous system with stress hormones, all these things are affecting your ability to actually communicate. And so valuable points, valuable bits of information you don't get to express. And so because you're not expressing those valuable things, other people are listening. When you're speaking, other people are listening, and then they're working out what your view or the way you believe certain things are based on what you're saying, and that's how they interpret your expression. And but when your expression is you know, not accurate, not well, it could be go towards more negative than what you normally are actually feeling about something, because you might have a painful association with something, but you don't mean to be going on about it, you know, but you in that triggered state, so you're going on about it, and then you feel like it sounds like you're being way more negative than what you normally sort of are. And then my point, what I'm talking about here is that in addition to that, because you're in that state, you forget to say, or you aren't able to say things that back up your claims or justify your view or belief on things. And so the other person or parties, again, are listening to what you're saying. And because you're not saying valuable things that will back up, you know, back you up, they then they only hear the other stuff, and so that's all they remember, and that's what they think about you. It's all very difficult, and so a lot of this all comes back to identifying triggers, knowing, and this perfect thing. Sadly, Australiana had to leave because she'd became triggered earlier, and uh, she did the right thing in that way. Triggered, sorry, got to go. Calm down, do something else. She did a very, she was, that was self-care. So she identified that she was triggered, and then thought the best thing for me now is it's not continuing this conversation because it's going to make it worse. And that's what I'm trying to say with, it's a very valuable thing for yourself, for myself, you know. When I say yourself, I'm talking generally. When I say you, I'm talking generally, as I'm talking as examples. So I hope no one thinks I'm speaking about a particular person. I'm using that as a reference of anyone in any situation which I'm talking about. And so this is the difficulty of communicating when anxious, aroused, triggered, heightens in a heightened sense, in a heightened state of arousal. So identifying these things and then being able to slow down, monitor, calm. Okay, this is where breathing techniques come in, grounding techniques come in, tapping, removing yourself from the situation, and then coming back again later when you've calmed down. All of these things are good ways to, and so when you identify something like that, you can say to the person, look, now's not the right time because I'm upset now, and I'm afraid that it's not going to be accurate how I talk about this subject because I'm too upset. I would like to come back later at another time when I'm ready, and we can discuss this. And you can use that, and people will accept that almost always. There's very few times someone will say, no, you have to tell me right now. Usually people will give you that time and space to come back. And, they'll appreciate too that, it's better for everyone. And all that stuff teaches other people. So if we all do these things, it'll be better for everyone, So, it's funny, like us people who are dealing with trauma and how it affects our behavior and thoughts and communication, we're forced to have to learn to do it better. But by doing that, we can actually help educate everyone else who's unconscious of all this stuff. And in a sense, everyone has this same barrier of communication and dissonance, um, everyone has different relationship representations of complex issues that they have associated in how they've learned and experienced life. And so even just communicating is such a difficult thing. It's amazing that we can do it and do it on such a level that people can understand each other. But because that's a fundamental aspect, art is subjective. Why? Because I see something as a beauty in something, the next person won't. So that's a classic example, or importance in something, whereas another person won't see any importance in something. Or sensitivity. Something that is upsetting, whereas something is not upsetting to someone else. And then you combine all these things together and it just gets more difficult. You combine the fact that there's misinterpretation based on, so then we have the difficulty of clarifying things without over clarifying things. So some people switch off when you try and explain stuff, or some people can't even, it's actually too much for them emotionally to actually talk about certain topics in detail. So a very common human behavior is to dance around an issue, avoid an issue, and not give it enough attention to actually accurately talk about it. It's amazing how difficult language is. And a friend of mine's teaching me sign language. I'm learning a few words and I want to learn more. I love the idea of learning sign language. And so I've been meaning to learn more. I wanted to learn, one word a day or a couple of words a week or something like that, and I'll get back to it. So, but a cool thing with sign language is that the words have got a meaning behind it, sort of like pictographic text, where the like Japanese and Chinese, for example, where the characters represent things, and so the word itself can be understood by what it's describing. And you could look at Latin, does that, and a lot of languages, I guess, do that. They describe what they're saying based on other things, so they're using analogies. Anyway, that was fun to be able to just go off and talk about all that stuff. The difficulties of communicating. We're all working to get better at it all, And what I love about this channel is we're all from all over the world, people from so many countries, and it'd be great. Like it's really great how we can all communicate. And I think we do really well with that. I think we do. And, I appreciate that, I'm speaking in English and everyone else speaks in English here. You can always use Translate because you can listen. I think eventually they'll have translating in real time. Google's getting very good at translation, or getting very good at transcribing. So it's not far from having, or maybe even now, like they can do closed caption in real time, or close to real time. But, I appreciate there's so many people here that English is not their first language, and yet I appreciate them speaking in English here, and everyone speaks really well. So I understand what everyone's saying. I love it. I love this community. You all mean a lot to me. So Basic Glitch says, yeah, your experiences help me. I was called narc too, but I was in triggered state. But at the same time, I'm letting it go. I recognize that I need to work on myself, and some stuff simply not help. Yeah. Thank you for, yeah. I mean, if I can, the thing I appreciate that comment too, like that, my experience help others. And so that's great when and everyone's sharing their experiences here too. Your experience is helping me, so it's mutual. So thank you as well. And that the fact that this resonates is this is the difficulty of language, is that people misinterpret. Often you can bring it back to being in a state where you're not able to communicate the way you wish you could. And so this is where people that train to communicate and to protect themselves, and this is like the trivia method sort of does that. So rhetoric, grammar, and rhetoric are good major aspects to the ability to for someone to be able to communicate without being affected by their state of how they feel at that time. And so I'm learning nonviolent communication, and I've been doing it for almost getting close to a year. And I've still got lots to learn, and I love it. That what I've learned so far has been really empowering, and it really opens up. I mean, everyone has a good understanding of this stuff already, but it's so easy for people to not communicate the way that they sort of wish they could, just because of the situation. So, just as, people, like I was saying, who practice in debating and that sort of stuff, practicing something like nonviolent communication allows you to communicate much better. And I think anyone who's interested in it, like, there's lots of YouTube videos, and you can read the book or books, and it's really powerful because expressing your feelings and your needs to someone, and making a connection, and listening to their needs, and if they're not expressing it, finding out what their needs and their feelings are, and then you can connect. Then empathy is authentic, and you can, by making that connection, it breaks down barriers between people, and it's a beautiful thing. It really is helping a lot. And basically it says, just have to take loss on everything and try better next time. You're awesome. I am sure your business will thrive. Thank you so much, Basic Glitch. That's a beautiful comment, or comments that, or statement comments, like the, accepting those things, accepting those situations where the communication was misinterpreted, or, I'm looking back and thinking, times that where I've been upset, and then I communicated in a way that I really wish I didn't. I just accept that, now, and I can just do better now in the future. So when those things happen now, I do get upset at myself because I should know better. But then I accept it even when it happens now, because I go, well, I was in a triggered state, and maybe I wasn't able to communicate the way I wish I did. And accepting it allows you to free that up and then move on, and at least improve over time. And that's exactly what you said, just accept it and try better next time. That's a really good way to look at it, Basic Glitch. And thank you for your your hopes and optimism with the business. So thank you so much. Page Pastor says, I'm around a lot of angry people, yelling, doors slamming, etc. That's not me. When I met their anger with a passive stare, they call me a monster. Lol. They're all mixed up. I gotta bring out. I'm sorry to laugh then, but I'm laughing because it's a common thing. Because all you're doing in that situation is you're not even speaking to them. You're just a blank stare or a passive stare can be perceived as aggressive, and by not saying something in that situation, it's like you're putting up a mirror to them, and they're not accepting it, because a lot of people are in denial for their own aggression. And so I think what you're doing is fine and great, because you're not acting aggressive. It's just being perceived as aggressive, because this is the sad thing. In a lot of cases, people that have got anger issues, any form of pulling it back from that, or them realizing they're the ones who are being angry, and because you're not yelling, you're not slamming doors, they're the ones doing that. But then just by them realizing that, it's like they're realizing they're the ones at fault and they can't handle it, so, and that, it's silence, and you're making acknowledgement of the situation, that you're not accepting it and you're not happy about it, but you're not going to make it any worse. You're not judging them or making, an evaluation. Well, it is a slight evaluation, but you're not making it in a aggressive way. You're just you're staring at them, and you're letting them know that you're not going to say anything. They just have to look at their own behavior in that situation. And most people can't accept it. They get more angry. It's like, this is like catching someone out who's deliberately being nasty, and then you catch them out and they get angry. Well, I've got a really interesting story about that, which I might tell in a minute, about something that happened to me years ago. But I'll catch up with the comments. Basic Glitch says, "Oh, sorry, I clicked on something. I hope that I didn't done anything wrong." Or anyways, a cage pastor. I know that feel a little bit before my absolute break. My mum was angry all the time too. It is when you're around people that they're not just projecting an angry. It's like creating an environment, and it creates tension. Similar to, when lots of people are negative about everything. If you're the only one who's positive about things, and you're surrounded by people who are negative, they don't have to be angry and yelling. They can be negative, and it's a similar thing. Your positivity is, it's like sunlight to vampires or something like that. Like they're just like, no. So they do react. They, it's again, like catching, if you catch a narcissistic, someone who's a narcissist that is like a psychopath or a sociopath, and you catch them out, and you catch them what they're doing, and you prevent them from doing the attack that they're trying to inflict, they get very angry because they've been caught out, and it's like their only thing they do. And so these sort of reactions happen in lots of different things, whether it's people, you're the positive one surrounded by negative people, you're the peaceful one surrounded by angry people, you're aware of gaslighting or narcissistic abuse, and you let them know that you're aware of their trick. Same thing is, it's almost like a con man who's doing a con, trying to get people to pay the money, pick which thing's got the ball under it, which cup, and you walk up and you just go, oh, that's you break the magic trick, and the con man gets angry and they throw their stuff and close their briefcase with their little card table, and they take off all angry because you've broken their spell. So but yeah, I didn't notice anything about that you clicked on something or missed something. Basic glitch. I think everything's going fine. So yeah, all good. No, I think everything's good. And we're appreciating all your input tonight. It's been really good. Everyone's been contributing really well. I mean, everyone does generally, but I love it. I love these conversations. We talk about stuff most people don't want to talk about or don't have time for, or it's too confronting for them. And it's really important that we do talk about this stuff. And all our behaviors then filter out and people learn from us. So, we literally can be the example for others to follow. And if enough people communicate and behave in a correct way, in a good way, other people will hopefully learn over time and become better at that themselves. Some people will never learn, but it is, and there's been lots of studies showing that, negative people influence people around them, and they become negative, rude, or positive people that do things in a good way do the same thing. People around them get better, and sadly, a lot of these things have been shown through social engineering experiments that were unethical, but we have learned a lot from human behavior through that. But we don't have to have these experiments. We know this stuff is how things work, behaviors are infectious, and moods and feelings are infectious. We are empathic beings, even if we're not connected in that way, or people are, disconnected. It still has an effect. And so this is where disorder in society and in systems, in social groups, things go bad very easily, but also there's hope because things can go good just as easily with the right. And it's not being manipulative or anything like that. It's just leading by example and trying to do things in a peaceful way, constructive way. Yeah, basically it continues. Yeah, I could not react positively nor negatively. So cold stare and chill it was. I hope it will improve. My mum did, so that it worked with that. Maybe your home too. Yeah, so that's really nice that you had good results from that, and that so um, just being passive and not engaging, but you're still able to let them know through your silence that it's not acceptable, and then so they it gives them time to actually correct their behavior. So it doesn't always work, but it can work, and there's an example there with basic glitch saying it has worked for her. So cage passer with the heart, you know, exactly. I can't win for losing or lose for winning. It's impossible. Yeah, that is difficult, and I feel for you. And um, it is very frustrating that um, I guess that whole going back to that, just being the example, you know, and sometimes you have to remove yourself from the situation. Like you were saying, you know, you might need to find somewhere else to live, you know, and it's sad when it gets to that point, but you know, you got to think about yourself. If you can't, if people aren't going to change or try and do better, then you know, you can actually sometimes those relationships can get better when you go away and they they go, oh, and they miss you, and then they're like, what was I doing wrong? And they think about their behavior, you know, and then they want to try and maybe they go through, you know, working through these things over time, and then your relationship can get better down the track once they've sort of become more enlightened or um, conscious and aware of their own behaviors and how it affects others. You know, it's because so much communication and behavior is just unconscious. You know what I mean? So we and we're forgiving. We everyone here we've had to learn this stuff. You know, and we've that's where we're hypersensitive. We're hyper vigilant. You know, it's other people that are, you could say, hyper numb or subdued or ignorant even. And so when you that there is a certain degree of forgiveness within that, then at a certain point you have to either say no more, not accept it, or step back or remove yourself from the situation and preserve your own dignity and your own progress, because we're all trying to heal here. It's nothing worse than being set back because of other people keeping us stuck in this, you know. And look, we see this in society, on the whole world, but you know, it's everywhere that there is this oppression or keeping everyone stuck, you know. You know, it's done on many levels, you know, keeping us separated and fighting amongst ourselves, you know, keeping us disillusioned and um, not focused. Um, it's amazing what could happen in the world if people weren't stuck in that state. You know, it's so many things would be so much better. So you know, it's that's one aspect to accepting acceptance of those difficulties, purely in relation to how humans are conditioned by society, propaganda, media, um, and also through, um, you know, uh, inequality and injustice in the world that creates, disillusionment and people not just functioning. Like, imagine if the world was all, if the whole world was just peaceful and everyone cared for each other, and people didn't get angry at each other, and we all focused on like making a better tomorrow. How great would the world be? It would just be like this amazing place, but it's not. We're all stressing out over money, finding a place to live, or being the cost of living being so high, the cost of rent being so high, being priced out of the property market like it is here in Australia. If you don't already own a house or multiple houses, then there's very little chance you're ever going to own a house. It's disappeared. It's going to take a lot of work to give people the opportunity just to have a little place to call their own, because of greed and because of bad like loopholes in things that basically give people who've got who've already in a situation more advantage over others. So this is the inequality. Just those things exist on, and it's not just property, it's everything: jobs, social status and hierarchies, and those things create disillusionment, and then it then creates dysfunction and stagnation. So they want everyone to work harder and produce more, but why not just produce less but enjoy what you're doing more? But we can't. It's not the way it's sort of set up. And I'm not saying it's all done by design, but you know what? It sort of is in a lot of ways, because we have laws that suit some people and not others. We have people are able to get away with breaking laws, whereas other people are highly persecuted or prosecuted for minor things, just little things that aren't worth worrying about in society. And yet nasty, evil people get away with destroying people's lives every day, and they only get like they sometimes don't even get put in jail or get punished. Yet, other people get punished massively for things that don't matter so much. It's like there's all these things, and then there's the fighting in politics. Oh, demonization of people. Like the political thing is just, that's why I usually shut down about a lot of that stuff, because I find it offensive, because it's set up to basically get people to fight against each other, and dislike each other and not trust each other. Wouldn't it be nice if the world could just get along? So, and it could. It could. Sorry, I'm going off on tangents here. But basically, she says, yes, exactly, 100%. After I took the fall, I feel like my reaction restarted to little kid, but I know it very much. I'm holding fingers for you. Yeah, that's it. It does that. It does it. Once you, yeah, that's a very interesting thing, because when you're up against that sort of behavior, it does limit you then in any sort of interaction you have, because then you're perceived as being disturbing, like a disturbing element to them. You're a problem to them, and you're silenced. You then you have a form of self-censorship, and that's it's almost like, yeah, it reduces you back to being a child again, because you're not able to speak up against the adults because you're just a child and they're not going to listen to you, even though you very much are an adult and you are capable and knowledgeable, and it's like you're reduced. So infantilization is again a sort of a tactic to oppress people in society. So we got a lot to deal with in this world. If only things could run a little bit better. So Cage Pastor says, I appreciate you, Basic Glitch. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a really good conversation going here. Basic Glitch says, I do appreciate myself. Thank you, Joke. Oh, come on. See, that's like, you should appreciate yourself, Basic Glitch. We all love you. Everyone here, we all appreciate each other, and it is easy. I'm the same. Look, I've got to say, I knock myself down all the time. It's something I did to protect myself from what we have to deal with other people. So, I disregard my abilities. I disregard my intelligence, or masculinity even. I disregard my worth, and it's not right. And people tell me that. They say, no, you're smart. You are responsible. Don't say those things, because, and you are, look, you should appreciate yourself. That's something that I haven't in the past. I haven't appreciated myself enough, and people have tried to teach me that, and I'm finally getting to understand I need to do that more. And when I do that, when I do appreciate myself more, I am empowered by it. We are taught by society to disregard ourselves all the time. We need to appreciate ourselves much more. So, you are awesome. So don't worry, basically. I understand. I'm the same. Like I do that all the time. I'm just learning how to appreciate. I'm learning how to love myself, and be happy and comfortable and appreciate myself, not to disregard myself and think I'm incapable. So this is like learned helplessness, which comes from the conditioning of society or people, and a mixture of those things. And it's I think it's something that moving forward in the future, things need to get better. Basically says, it would not work for me, but I was away for college, and when I was little, she was working 3 jobs with lazy husband. She had right to be angry, but removing yourself might be a better way. Yeah, that's it. You protect yourself by stepping back from a situation. You really need to think about yourself and your safety and your progress. It's nothing worse than going backwards because you're surrounded by people that aren't appreciating you or telling you that you're not worthy. So it's when that happens, it's good to think about it. And that's why it's really nice that people have told me, that I am worthy, that, I am good, that I am knowledgeable, and that I am capable. Because all those things, we create a negative talk, and you know, it's conditioning that it goes to a certain point from exterior, and then once we develop that self-flagellation or self-hatred or self-loathing, when we got to remember that it's like we've been tricked into believing that stuff, and we really are powerful, amazing people, and we're good, happy people. So I know that for myself that it was a safety thing for me to put myself down all the time, and I wish I had learned this earlier. I wouldn't have had so much time where I was stuck in that. But that's a really good comment. You can see how other people can be stuck in those situations where they're not in a good situation themselves. Like your example of being someone who was working 3 jobs and in a bad relationship, and that then means that they're not going to be happy and they're going to be angry, and then they're going to then you have to deal with their discontent. And that's, again, because we're hypervigilant and hypersensitive, at least we can, maybe sometimes at the time we don't know what's going on, but then when we think about it and we go, what's going on? And we go, actually, this person's like, they're either projecting or they're expressing their own discontent and putting it on to us. And we shouldn't accept it. We need to remember that we need to preserve ourselves, and that we are worthy, we are good, we are capable. For me, one of my biggest barriers for things would be thinking that I'm not capable, and then I'd make these things or accomplish these tasks and still think that I'm not worthy or not capable. And it's this entrained or conditioned false belief, because we've been told that we're that certain way, and it's not. Sometimes I'd say most of the time it's not the case, and it's just yeah, it's difficult. I guess what I'm trying to say is, please, everyone, appreciate how good and awesome you are and what you can do. Things are tough. We can't always achieve the things we want to achieve, but hey, we're forgiving so much of other people's behavior. It's good for us to appreciate how good we are and what we are capable of, rather than to get stuck in that negative. I just read Cage Pastor's one. That was a classic one, but I'll what is it? Basically, it's bit for a little bit. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, Cage Pastor said, what was it? Okay, John Lennon. Totally. I think I went on a full John Lennon style. Like, I hope the world just can live in peace and harmony. I love that. I sort of was doing that for quite a while, wasn't I? I was like, wouldn't it be great, if the world could just, I won't start singing it. But yeah, just imagine all the people. Totally. He said a lot of things. Yeah. Jealous Guy is another classic one. It's about someone who's being angry and actually understanding through remorse their behavior. So yeah, John Lennon had some really amazing enlightening songs. I love that comment. Okay, John Lennon. That should be a meme. I love it. We should make a meme. I'm just be like me saying, the world should just be awesome and peaceful. Okay, John Lennon. I love that. Thank you for that so much. Basic Glitch says, oh, I should stop talking about it, but I need to fix the misconception. I was reacting coldly, but then something happened that got me being in error for a few years, and my reactions became really childlike. I'm holding fingers for you. I understand. That's I've been. That's what it's like, and you're not alone. Don't feel like you're speaking too much about this. I think this is really important that we talk about these topics. So basically, I love what you're saying, and you're wanting to talk about this situation and how complicated it was. And see, this is the thing, it happens over a long period of time. So you've got the time when things are happening, the reaction of how you behave, right? And then you have this time where you start figuring it out, then you change your behavior, then you actually improve. Maybe you get some resolution with these people or acceptance and understanding, and then you can create boundaries. In these later stages, you create boundaries because you work out what boundaries are. You learn, we have to learn about all this stuff to learn what we need to do. And then you get to that point and it's like you've gone through that thing where you've actually reduced what you can do because you've been stuck in this, like some people say, a lower vibration or a different limited, like you say, child, like you regression to less ability to express emotions or your feelings or thoughts or whatever, and then or your ability to interact. So you say, like you become more like a child, but then you had to grow back into being who you are again. And then you go, well, look at all this time that's gone by. Or years. Sometimes it can be half your life, A lot of people get through that and it's like they've spent their whole life not working this stuff out. So we're doing the work. We're all doing it here. What we're talking about is really important. No, like so many people they just keep going on with their behavior. They don't think about what they say. I know I've got a lot of work to do because I need to learn to be better. But I have gotten to that point of acceptance, of understanding that, I am justified in a lot of things. But I also accept that because of my trauma, I will get triggered and I will also have these difficulties in expressing. And that's where, again, it goes back to me learning more about behavior, communication, interaction, how good is this? Having these conversations like this with everyone here, it's so powerful. We're all learning from this. Everyone's getting, so please, Basic Glitch, we appreciate you so much, so thank you. But it's good to hear that you're working through these things. Where are we? Oh yeah, Case Pastor says, it sounds like things are going better for you now, Basic Glitch. I'm curious about your story. Yeah, I think it is good to hear that things are getting better, and we do appreciate it. That you're sharing. This is how we like it. We by sharing our experiences and being vulnerable to share that stuff, it really helps everyone. Basic Glitch says, thank you very much, but don't worry, I know I have my own story behind me. I'm not sad, don't worry. But I didn't know that I'm putting myself down. Maybe because I meant it differently. Well, that's the thing. I could be. I think what I was sort of using those things as I was using my own examples. So I'm not necessarily saying that you were saying that you're putting yourself down. I was talking about a whole sort of lot of things with how, I mean, it's very easy for it's like a very um, very common human behavior to um, I I personally I act in a submissive way in order to it allows others to be dominant, and I'm learning how to not be so submissive and just to be comfortable in myself and to stand firm and be happy that how I'm behaving and speaking is fine. And so I shouldn't accept certain behaviors, but also I should be comfortable in those things. So I was more so taking what you're talking about and sort of expanding on my experience. But it is something that is very common. Case Pastor says, "I think you meant that it's unusual for a person to compliment themselves." Yes, that is a big thing. Yeah, that is a big. It's very common, and in some cultures, it's actually much more. Some cultures, um, to to speak about oneself in a positive light is seen as being rude. In some cultures, it's seen as common to like talk about oneself in a very positive light. And it's an interesting thing because there's in different parts of the world there's this different sort of variations on these social norms. And I think that's a great thing that now we're all interconnected with the internet. We're all sort of we all get to sort of help each other be more comfortable in ourselves. And I think it's great that all over the world there's different cultures. I think that's awesome. I love that. But it's also great, I think, that you know this is how by sharing ideas and understandings we all become more enlightened, and we don't get stuck in these things, and then lose all this time, or opportunities just because of how how we are. And in a lot of cases it's it's not easy because it's all so complicated. But the answer is easy, and that's just by, well, it's it, it's, it's difficult actually. But we're being, I think, because of difficult times, trauma, and all that, being forced to be more present and conscious, or being, see, that's where it can be difficult too. So trauma can cause us to dissociate and create a disconnection, but yet at the same time trauma can make us hypersensitive and hypervigilant, which then can be the thing that allows us to actually see what's going on, whereas other people can't see what's going on. They don't know what's going on because they're not aware of it. Yet we become aware of it because we question it and we go, we need to fix what's the problem, So, where are we? Basic Glitch says, but you are awesome, everyone. Oh, thank you, Basic Glitch. We appreciate that a lot. Basic Glitch says, yeah, exactly. That was the joke. Yeah, that is classic. Awesome. Cage Pastor says, I got you. There you go. That's it. I love that. It is fun, talking about these heavy topics and being able to, step back from that, the complexity and the worry about things, and just gives us a bit of time to we can be serious but not so serious, which is good. So basically says, I appreciate you, thank you. I will probably never get it right with them. Yes, exactly, 100%. That's the thing. You described it perfectly. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. And yeah, sorry that it's like that in situations where it may never change, because it in a lot of cases it takes a person to actually go through those stages, of awareness, and then acceptance, but then also the willingness to change or adapt, and then to actually do the work. Like, once you do that, you still have to then try to, be active and about it all. And then things can happen. And most people will never even get past the first stage. They just won't accept even what's going on. They don't want to think about it. So, well, we're in a lot of respects, we're we should really think about how we think about these things on deeper levels and want to actually do work to make things better. We should really appreciate what we're doing, because it's not just for ourselves, it is for others. Even if we can't change them, or we don't necessarily want to change them, we want to, even if they can't change, because they have to do it for themselves, But it can be frustrating, and again, acceptance of the inevitability, or that other people won't ever change in some, or it may be that they don't, because it does require a lot of work. Well, but those people think that I was faking it because I don't have paper on it. On top of that, the lie not lie guy totally twisted my story, made it about him. It was not, and now I'm a target for something that is kind of deserved. That's something I kind of deserve, but I don't lie about, because I was talking about completely something else. Yeah, and there's that reaction where they flip it and they make it about themselves and not about the issue. It over personalizes it, and then it becomes it's like a perceived judgment or evaluation on them, on their behavior. And that's unfortunate, because then they can then get angry and then flip it, and then they turn it about themselves, and that's really painful, because if there was that connection in between, then and they could actually separate themselves from the issue, and they would be able to work with it, but when they it's like they make it worse, you know, and you're trying to fix things, but then they're throwing it back at you and blaming you for something, and then they're not even willing to take on their responsibility, you know. And this is where people, both sides, or whichever people in a situation, either two or multiple parties, and it can be our own relationship with ourselves too, but it's usually, situations like this is usually two people or multiple people. But it's finding that space in between and not making the issue about personal, and then understanding that it can be just as simple as it being the complexity of the communication, being the communication broke down. There is a misinterpretation. And so there can be a level of understanding and forgiveness. And then both parties can then understand they both had pain over this, rather than it becomes a back and forth, and even when one side's saying I don't want to fight, and the other side's throwing it back, you still have to dodge these things. So even if you don't want to fight, you can't not, because you still want to try and solve things. And it's, again, when you've been misinterpreted, and especially when you acknowledge that this is painful, when you acknowledge when one acknowledges their own faults, or they're contributing to a situation, the other side doesn't, and then they throw everything back at you and then make it worse. And then you've made yourself vulnerable. You're trying to just fix things, and then it's like that's upsetting when that happens. So, you're too busy trying to work out where because they're, again, in that situation, they're basically accusing you of something when it's just a miscommunication or a misinterpretation. Pastor says, that's really concerning. Ah, they made things worse than it had to be. Oh, see, that's exactly synchronicity right there. I didn't read that comment. I know it was there for a while, but it's funny. I wish I would caught up, because I could have just read that and I didn't have to say it, because that's just what I love that. But yeah, see, this is the beauty of, we're all sort of talking about this complicated thing, right? And when people make things too personal, then they can't try and solve the issue because they're too busy stuck in that. So they're either, yeah. See, it's so much better to actually, be trying to solve these issues by working through them and looking at and understanding how it could be solved. And I think you're doing the right thing by acknowledging you've sort of touched on these experiences, basic glitch, and not just tonight but other times, and it's because it's been a very difficult thing that you've been dealing with for a long time. And I hope there is resolution for it. Basically, she says, yeah, it is. And me being triggered and some people purposely trying to make me angry didn't help at all. Yes, that's a really good point. It doesn't, It doesn't. It just makes it worse. So that can be a tactic, not necessarily as narcissists, but also people a defense mechanism. So, you know, people say, again, like, you know, people can say, why so personal? Don't take it personally, or they take it personally, but they can't admit that they have. The other thing is with the baiting, you know, putting you in a situation where they're agitating you, so you're going to say something you regret, and it's not always done on purpose. It can be done as a unconscious defensive behavior, and it's seen in a lot of places. But don't get me wrong, there are people that deliberately do this, you know, and it is an adversarial tactic, you know, and so, but it is also a defensive, unconscious defensive behavior that people will just do that. Not so, you know, it's the classic thing of avoiding an issue, you know, by turning it around and turning it back on the other person to get the other person to be angry, and then they can go, oh, look at you, you're angry now, see, and it proves their point. So by doing that, they've gotten away with even having to acknowledge their own part in the picture. And this is what we're talking about here, is that us here, like, we acknowledge our own behavior, and yet that's disregarded, which is sad. So, I mean, when with complicated situations, I've repeatedly had to, like, start my statements with acknowledging my my behavior and my contribution to the situation, and then that then becomes also can be reason for the other person to attack that, and all they have to do is refuse to acknowledge their own behavior and their contribution to the situation. So we're making ourselves vulnerable by being open. Like, I find it, I prefer to do that. Even though it's a risk, you're making yourself vulnerable, because it means that they've got something that they can then turn against you. Because all they have to do is not acknowledge their own stuff. And then if you try and bring up, oh, but you do this, and then they go, oh, what, you're accusing me of this now? Because all they've had to do is say what you've said about yourself. It's very, it's very difficult. Where are we? Completely lost where I was. Oh, here we go. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so basically it says, like, I was aggressive on my own, but sometimes not. Sometimes I tried to fix it, but they would not have it. So I shut down with what they then said that I abandoned them. But what I was supposed to do. Yeah, see, that sounds like a situation where you just can't win against these people. And it's not like you're wanting to win against them. You're just wanting to solve the situation or find a resolution, but it's almost like it doesn't matter what you do. Like, you know, it gets taken out of context, or, you know, used against you. So it is really difficult. And in that, sometimes in those situations, you can actually have acceptance of the fact that you can't win against these people, you know, or you can't get resolution with these people, and that you can have, it can make you feel better in that, because then you're not hurting yourself for trying to like understand. It's like trying to understand something that is irrational, especially when you know it's irrational. It makes it even worse. And then it's upsetting. Hayes Pastor says it's like they are logicking to themselves that if they make you the problem, they can claim to be the solution. Strange power trip. Yes, that's a really good point. That's it. You know. You know, it's funny. Like we live in this world where this stuff happens in so many different levels in society. Like in this modern era with the internet, there is a lot of discourse about ideology and people's grievances about things, and at the same time, people wanting to change things, but then they it's it's very common that these things, or that this occurs in so many aspects of society. So this is a very sort of like these examples that like Basic Glitch is talking about, that we're all sort of extrapolating and referring to our own situation. We're generally talking about interpersonal relationships with just a few people, but these same dynamics happen on bigger scales, you know, even up to the geopolitical scale of countries and political parties and that sort of thing, or major ideologies that exist in the world. That there's this arguments going on and blaming and not listening, and it's so difficult. I think we should just appreciate how much effort we're all trying. Like all of us here, we do make an effort. So even if we have to deal with these difficult situations, at least we're trying. At least we're giving it a go, and we're aware, you know. But yeah, it's really good comment. It is this very strange power trip that goes on. You know, a classic example is how the power of propaganda or propagandists and intelligence agencies to be able to take almost any situation and flip it, change it to still get the desired outcome. And they've got it to a, I mean, they've been practicing this stuff for thousands and thousands of years, and it's just only in the modern times, you know, we see it as existing, you know, in this very formal way, you know, like industrialized, mechanized, automated. It's automated now with the internet, you know. So like now with the internet, we've got bots, AI bots, arguing with each other in comment sections. It's, but then I mean, I'm just going. I've really gone far from what the point I was trying to make is that what we're up against with these things is that it's almost like they will. So how do you deal with these situations? And so being reserved is a really good thing. Not feeding the situation, but we can't walk away from these things. We have to try and address the situations and get to a resolution if we can. And if we can't, then the best thing then is to minimize the damage done to ourselves, especially. We have to preserve our own dignity and, even if other people might have this view that is negative and false towards ourselves or a situation, and then we still have to do what we can to try and sometimes, silence is the best thing, or stepping back from a situation in order to preserve oneself can be another thing. And sadly, that means you have to walk away from things. It could be leaving a job or a relationship, or some people have to walk away from their family because they can't take it anymore, or people leave a political party because this stuff happens within political parties or social movements or any of these things. I think these issues and these dynamics exist everywhere. It's difficult, but I love that we're talking about this stuff on such a deep level. So I'm quite tired at the moment. I've been up since like almost 1 a.m. But I kept going back to sleep. So I think it was 5 a.m. And I had a big day. I had a massive day today. Lots. So my brain function is still quite good considering I'm still able to speak. So, but I'm having difficulties sometimes. I'm getting words mixed up, and so forgive me for that. Where are we? Yeah, basically it says, yeah, even if they were not trying to get angry with me, others did. They probably didn't see it, or I don't know, it was. And also, I'm afraid that I'm making my actions lighter. So don't be fooled by me. That's interesting. Yeah, it is really difficult. I mean, how do we deal with these situations? Basically, just continues. I don't know, mate. I stopped overthinking this stuff a long time ago. I have no idea what they are on about. That's a really good. That's it. That's it. Perfect. Stop overthinking, and you, by doing that, you are removing yourself from the situation and preserving yourself by not letting it get, using all your energy and your thoughts and your feelings and emotions and time focused on this thing that's causing, and just, it can be the best thing to just decide, no, I'm not going to let this affect me anymore. I'm just not going to give it any more attention. And it can be very liberating, by that. And seeing the way that they're reacting and just saying, look, I can't work them out. So I'm not even going to, I can't work out what they're talking about. So I'm not even going to entertain it, because it will create dissonance in your own mind when people are going through these false logic. Then it's it causes dissonance or pain. Basically, it continues. I completely gave up. I ended up just talking about it and tried to defend myself, and stopped having completely idea what they are on about. Yeah. I think that it's a good way to deal with this. Are you sure says everyone's experiencing. Oh, sorry, everyone's experience and growth are encouraging for me. I'm going back to work this week. I learned to have boundaries, and I'm assertive and fueled with compassion. Oh, that's a really good positive. There's a lot of hope there. And that's cool. You're getting back to work. You've learned to have boundaries, and that can really help with that, because you can apply that in those situations, and it can really help by not. But you see, being assertive is really powerful, especially when it's combined with compassion. So that's really great. Are you sure? And that gives you confidence too, because it means that any of these things can just happen all of a sudden, and it means that you can respond to it in a good way, and it gives confidence and takes the stress out of things. Basically, it says, on the other hand, like, WTF. Yeah, that's true. It's what do you do in some of this stuff? Basically, it continues. Worst way is that I really tried to be truthful, even admitting that I may have jumbled it a little bit because of that error that occurred. But no, they think that I was fully aware. Guy, if it was, yeah, sorry, good night, and I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. No, it has been a good night. Like, we've almost hit 3 hours. How cool is that we can chat like this for 3 hours? And here's me saying, oh, I hope I'm like able to. I feel like I am starting to get so tired that, but it's good. It's good that, even though I've had such an amazing night tonight. Talking about this stuff is really good. Everyone's had some really good comments and input. So I appreciate everyone here that's been here, and not everyone. There's a lot of people that watch these streams and they get a lot out of it. Like, they don't necessarily. They might be here now, or they might be watching it in replay, and everyone's appreciating this stuff. So I think it's very important what we're that we're open to actually talking about our own situations like this, and it's good, really good, and all this stuff adds to healing. It's healing. It helps us heal. We get better at understanding situations and adapting to them, or non-reacting can be the best thing. There's so many different things. So it probably is a good time, like, to wind down now and finish up the stream for tonight. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed everyone's contributions and what everyone said, and I've also enjoyed just talking about this stuff, because I'm trying to learn all this stuff and grapple with all this stuff, and you know, it's just it's not easy. But yes, we'll have, if you're still here, Basic Glitch, we got to have a rematch with the chess match because you beat me. And I think next person I play is Baby Stag. She wants to, she's wanting to learn chess, so I'll hopefully line that up soon too. Maybe next weekend I'll do another chess match. So I might put the I might put it up on the community page and try and line it up. It might be me versus Baby Stag for the next game, for the next chess match. So hopefully people can join. And I've got fresh candles, so we'll have good candles for the chess match. It'll be well lit, so that'll be fun. Oh, it was so much fun. And I look forward to it. Thanks everyone for being here, you know, and I don't know when the next stream will be. It would have been cool to make a stream about the pesto. Maybe I can do that tomorrow, or not a stream, maybe a video. Well, I'll have a think about that, or maybe I'll just make the pesto and put a photo on post it on the posts on my channel updates page. Basic Glitch says, yeah, definitely. Yes, rematch. Awesome. Rematch. That will be great. You'll probably beat me again too, Basic Glitch. That's all right. But yeah, no, look, I got fresh candles, so it'll look really cool. And it's fun. Much love to everyone. Thank you all for being here. And I'm going to have a very productive week this week. I'm starting to get momentum. And a lot of that's thanks to the support from everyone. And that, you know, I want to sort of, any way I can return, you know, what people are helping me. If people want to reach out at any time, just send me an email, and you know, I'm back at the point where I can respond to emails again. So yeah, much love to everyone. I appreciate you all so much, and I look forward to updates from this coming week. That hopefully there's more progress, and yeah, there's I've got a lot of work to do, but I'm really excited for the future now. I really am. I've had some amazing things happen to me recently that have profound impact in making me just feel loved and excited for the future. So I couldn't be more happy at the moment, and that's considering, you know, everything, the difficulties of life that's going on. It's things I'm just really excited for the future now, and I'm ready for all the work that I've got to keep doing. So thanks everyone for like helping me and keeping me on task. So much love to everyone. It's been a beautiful night. Cage Pastor says good night everyone with the heart. So thank you. There's a couple of hearts flying in the sky. I just added a few more. All right. Catch you all soon. I'll look forward to catching up again. Hope everyone has a great week. And we'll all meet hopefully same time next Sunday. I'll try and do streams at other times so that different parts of the world, it's not like the middle of the night sort of thing. But this is my regular one. I love this one. So yeah. Basic Glitch says good night. Also, everyone, I'm excited to hear about you all. Awesome. Thank you so much, Basic Glitch. So awesome. Much love to everyone. Have a good night. Bye.